If you've been staring at a blank screen wondering what to say in your videos, or even worse, recording 100 takes because you just keep stumbling over your words, this video is for you. And no, this isn't just some other basic video about how to come up with good hooks or just some entry-level garbage. I'm going to show you the exact scripts and copywriting techniques that I actually use and explain them in detail. Don't just take my word for it. These techniques are from some of the best copywriters in the world, like Acunzo, who works with brands you've all heard of, I'm sure, like Google, HubSpot, Vimeo. I've personally used these strategies with one of my clients, Zach Colburn, who's currently making at least $30K per month off the VSL that we wrote, and Cade, who booked 5 calls and collected $3,600 in consulting fees in his first 21 days working with us, just by posting 3 YouTube videos that each had about 150 views. So let's get into it. All right, so here's proof that this actually works. This is an interview with one of my clients, Cade. He got $3,600 in 21 days after we uploaded 3 YouTube videos. His channel had less than 100 subscribers, and each video maxed out at an average of 150 to 200 views. He also didn't have a landing page. He didn't have any sort of social proof outside of his YouTube channel, which did have 1 or 2 case studies on it and really actionable advice, stuff that we implement with all of our clients. And that was all he needed to get calls booked from YouTube directly into the Calendly link in his description and get $3,600 within 3 weeks. So this does work. This is the same process that I used for him and for all of our clients. So here's a basic chart of what a YouTube script usually looks like. So you have the hook. You're going to have an attention-grabbing opener, first 30 seconds, get right to the point. Don't say, "What's up, YouTube? How are you? Today we're going to do this." Just get right to the point. Say what you mean and mean what you say. So some quick tips on that. Using a lot of numbers is just helpful. It's just something in our brain that we like to hear numbers. We like to see how that goes. So 5 biggest problems you'll face is way better than here's some big problems that you're going to face. Cost narrative versus regular positioning. So instead of saying this is the best brand of deodorant to use, you're going to narrate the cost of what it took you to figure that out. So you'll say, I bought 500 deodorants and spent $2,000 and tried every single one. This is the absolute best one. So you're just narrating for the audience using numbers what went into your opinion. So it's not just an empty opinion. There was a cost to it. That's a really powerful tool to use. And then following up with an interest peak is something that a lot of people don't do. Their hook will either just be too long and drag out, or okay, they have it, but there needs to be a little bit more there because it's not believable or it's just a weird claim. You gotta back it up. Social proof is a big part of that, but specifically in the interest peak, that's kind of like the second half of your hook. And I probably use this 80% of the time when writing scripts. So you're going to confirm the viewer's decision to stay and justify your hook. So you'll say, and pay attention because, and then maybe you would go and use a technique like cost narrative or something else like that, add more value and weight behind what you're actually about to talk about. And you could say a negative assumption, like, I know what you're thinking, you've probably heard this before, but here's why it's different. Or you could do an appeal to authority and say, this is the exact same strategy that this person used to achieve this result. And if it's actually worthwhile, then that adds some extra value to what you're about to share. Now, when you get to the body of a YouTube script, you're giving value, especially as a business owner. There's really 3 types of content that are going to move the needle for you. Actionable how-to advice tutorials. So you're not doing button pusher tutorials, but it's conceptually teaching, hey, here's how we do XYZ. Then you're going to educate the audience, which is similar, but it could be a little bit more broad and abstract as opposed to showing them exactly how something works. You're just talking about an experience or sharing some insights. And then case studies. That's really it. If you're in finance and you can't share client case studies and results, then make a hypothetical case study. Like, what would it take? I'm 50 with $20 million. Could I retire? Yeah, the answer to that is probably, but you get the point. Okay. So that's really it. That's what's going to move the needle for you. When you're scripting out the body, whether it's for yourself or if you happen to be an agency or scriptwriter, copywriter, and you're doing this for someone else, follow a bullet point outline so that you're not too robotic. You do not want to spend all of your time word for word scripting out a long form YouTube video that's 10 minutes long or more. That is not a good use of time, and diminishing returns are going to be through the roof on any time you spend trying to script out your video completely word for word. So you will sound robotic, not a good idea. At the end, for your call to action, I always follow the power offer format, and we'll get a little bit more into what that is, but you're justifying your CTA. You're not recapping the video. You're not doing that. That is just a waste of time. They could just go back and rewind the video. They're going to tune out and click off of the video, and they're not going to hear the next steps that you worked so hard building trust with them to get there. They're just going to click out. They're not going to hear where you want to direct them. So really bad for your sales funnel overall to just be boring, recap, and lose momentum at the end. A lot of people do that here. So tell them they could subscribe, click a link in the description, or go ahead and watch another specific video on your channel. And you want to limit those call to actions, really just one main one. You could always throw in, hey, subscribe, and then if you want this, go book a call. That's technically 2 calls to action. Anything more than that, you're going to confuse them, and they're not going to take any of the action that you suggest. So an example script for one of my clients in the online fitness coaching niche, here's what that would look like. The hook is word for word. This is probably going to take about 30 seconds to read through. So it starts, over the last few years, our students have generated millions in combined revenue as online fitness coaches. Today, it's never been easier for anyone, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So then there's a little bit of, and no, it's not a get rich quick business model. Some gurus tell you, I will do X, Y, Z. This actually takes work. So a couple of things going on there. One, you're doing the negative assumptions. So that's your interest peak right there. You're calling out the fact that they're skeptical of other get rich quick business models. You're saying, I know what you're thinking, but this is not what that is. And then you're backing that point up even more by saying, yeah, other gurus are going to tell you, I'll get you 20 clients in 90 days without sending DMs. No, this actually takes work. So you're just calling out the awareness of your audience. Maybe they've seen or heard this before. And for this specific niche, for this client, the offer of online fitness business coaching, they've seen and heard it before. Over the last couple of years, a lot of competitors have entered that space. So knowing where your audience is at, what stage of awareness they are, is really important to the way you're going to script your videos. But anyway, so that's what the hook would look like. The body, you could see I gave him notes here in italics. I'm explaining how to get through the video. He's the expert. I do not know as much about this as he does. And even if he was writing this for himself, there's still diminishing returns to actually script this out word for word. So we just did this bullet point format. I gave some suggestions like, hey, like start with this, use your sentences this way, and just go through these main points off the top of your head. It's going to be easier. Just follow this outline. You won't get lost. The video will make sense, but you're not going to sound like a robot. It's not going to be overly scripted. So you could see that we went through here, and you get to the outro. Same thing as the hook. We have a logical sales argument, which follows the power offer format, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But intro and outro are word for word, probably about a minute to 30 seconds a piece each. The rest is all bullet points. Super simple. Do not overcomplicate this. So some scripting do's and don'ts. We talked about the cost narrative example already. You could just see it in print here. Here's my top 5 colognes for 2024. That's okay versus I purchased 2,000 colognes and then I compiled a list of my top 10 compliment pulling colognes for 2024. You could just see how this has a lot more credibility than this. Transformation versus acceleration. If you're writing a script and you're talking to business owners, they want to accelerate by getting new skills and methods and buy back their time. They don't necessarily want to change their situation. You know, consumers though on YouTube, they want to be sold, here's the secret hack for how you can stop being broke or whatever that is, right? So that's just a framing tip for when you're writing these scripts. What is the goal of your customer? You have to keep that in mind. Who's your customer? What do they want? Negative hooks. You want to frame videos negatively to capture attention. Don't overuse this, but just be aware and lean a little bit closer towards being negative than positive. Negativity is going to sell, right? So call out the viewer's desire to change by addressing the pain head on. They don't care about your top secret method. They want their problem to go away. So they're selfish, which is great for you because all you have to do is help them get what they want and they'll listen to you. They don't care about you as much as themselves. So you don't want to say, here's my secret secret to making more money. That's more about you than it is them. You want to say, here's how to stop being broke, right? That's just way more powerful. That's what they want. The secret is just the mechanism for how you get them there. But the closer you could speak directly to their desires and what's important to them, then they'll listen to your secret, right? So the influencer intro is ruining your videos. Never start shorts, YouTube videos, anything with, in this video here, I'm going to talk about, it's okay to say that at one point. Don't start with that. Or you say, hey guys, it's Adam here. Nobody cares. You're not doing a vlog. And then saying like, what's up YouTube or what's up Instagram? Today we're going to talk about, don't do that, right? So the ultimate value test for your scripts, when you're writing something or when you're making a video, just think, would I pay $100 and feel like I got a good deal and it was worth it? Would you feel confident charging that for your videos? If you're doing short form, you can say, would I pay $5 for this? If not, your idea sucks, the script sucks, you're not giving real value. Keep things to a 3rd grade reading level, not a 5th grade reading level. Don't use industry specific jargon. Do those things and your scripts will be better. So I want to talk about hooks and open loops, diving into each part of the YouTube video. You have to make the hook the most compelling part. Cost narrative is a good technique for that. We talked about that. Showing ROI and attaching value to the information makes it more interesting for the audience. So a really good retention metric for YouTube would be keeping at least 50% of viewers after the first 30 seconds. The drop-off's always going to happen, but you could control it with the right practices. And when you're writing scripts, this is what you want to be thinking about. This is why you're doing it. Aside from the cost narrative, there's another technique that I want to talk about that will change the way you write content forever. So let's talk about open loops. Here's a visual graphic of what this actually is. So you start by pointing out a problem or bringing up some sort of issue or topic, but you don't give them the closure that they're looking for. You just sort of take them there. And by the time you get towards where you're getting close to closure, you bring up another problem so that when you do give closure, they're still waiting for closure from another loop. Stay with me. This is going to make sense, right? So this is from Acunzo's blog. But why do people watch Netflix shows? Okay, mindless entertainment is one thing, but what makes you actually stick around, get glued to the screen, completely out of your own control? You're sucked in. It's because you want to find out how it's going to end. You want answers to things the show is building anticipation about. Who was the killer? How will they fix the problem or get out of the situation? What's the ending? How does it end? That's what keeps you sucked in to any content, right? That desire to find out is the key to the power of open loops. So Acunzo's blog is an incredible read on good writing and just the open loop concept in general. So I'm giving him all the credit here. This is directly from articles on his website. He's the best source of information I've found for open loops. So check it out, right? An open loop is a moment of tension left unresolved. The loop begins to open, but you haven't closed it yet. People are hardwired to crave that closure, and that's what turns something flat into something gripping, a story. Sometimes we can introduce tension overtly by asking questions to our audience. Why are things like this, dear reader, he says, right? That's an example. Mostly, those questions are more implicit. The result of a story left unfinished or a promise yet to be fulfilled, ... The loop opens and we desperately want it to close. That's the job of creating work that matters. It's not about who arrives, it's about who stays. And those people evangelize our ideas to others and the movement gains momentum. Don't just grab attention, hold it. Don't try to be relevant, try to be their favorite, because that's the job. And our jobs get a whole lot easier when we ask important questions, investigate unsolved problems, and wield tension as a tool to grip people, inspire them, and spark change. Open loops come in many forms. Sometimes they feel grand. Even before the first episode aired, the very name Game of Thrones opened up a loop for us. Who's going to sit on the throne when this is over? That loop remained open for 10 years later, okay? And he says, turns out that the payoff should match the initial intrigue to satisfy audiences. Otherwise, the open loop was empty hype. The closure matters too. This is important. Not all open loops are so big and far-reaching, however. Many are much smaller, and these are the ones we can use to pull out meaningful stories from the seemingly day-to-day. We may not tell stories like Game of Thrones, but that doesn't mean we aren't surrounded by stories worth telling. For example, simply by using the word but in that previous sentence, I wrote a more enjoyable, higher impact sentence. But is the smallest storytelling device advice in the tiniest open loop there is. It's a dense little dose of tension, a question you can raise before answering it, and the clause that follows. But is the tiniest storytelling tool. At least that's what I thought, because then I remembered the asterisk. When you see a sentence end with an asterisk, you're immediately intrigued. It's like a spiky little promise of something to come, something more, something deeper, and something nuanced. Reality is messy. There's more to the story. We still have questions. Find the footnote for the answers. If your question starts here, then your answers may be here. And he says, why the asterisk? By including it in my logo, I hope to remind myself and you to always embrace the power of uncertainty. I want us to question the conventional wisdom more, to look past superficial explanations and to poke holes in best practices in order to find the truth. I hope to remind myself that reality is messy, nuance matters, and this creative work we do is about depth in a world trending shallow. Why the asterisk? Because the real work of creators unfolds in the minutia, the tiny things, the little details, or footnotes others ignore. That's why I love deconstructing the created work, because there the craft unfolds. Creativity isn't a gift, it's a practice. So all of that to say, use the concept of open loops in your script, even in the tiniest ways. Using an asterisk, you're not going to do that on a YouTube script, but you could use a word like but. There is a lot of things to be learned from the concept of the open loop. There's a million ways you can do it. Just don't be boring. You're not writing a 10-episode Netflix series, but the concept is still powerful for YouTube videos that you make as a business owner or any content. Create questions, be interesting, guide them to the answers, but keep opening more questions along the way so that they don't get bored. A final note on open loops. Okay, Jay makes a point in the article that opening a loop is easy. Any clickbait headline is going to do that. 99% of business owners make this one huge mistake. You're going to see that a lot. You probably already have. But the payoff needs to match the logic and intensity of the initial claim. Otherwise, you're going to disappoint the audience. They'll feel like they've been tricked and they'll tune out. They'll never watch you again, right? So a couple other major points. Address the audience at the level of awareness that they're at having clicked on the video. Are they problem aware, solution aware? Are they product or brand aware? Address this within your audience call out at the start of your video. So if the title and concept of your video is the best new business model to run as a beginner, they don't know anything. So don't say anything specific about whatever it is you're writing about. Just keep things very vague and very general. If you're making a really nuanced, complex video about something that a beginner wouldn't be looking at, then you could speak a little bit differently, right? So just be aware of that. Establishing preeminence is big. You want to reflect the inner thoughts and feelings that your audience has better than they could say it themselves. They should feel like you know them better than they know themselves. Qualify or disqualify your audience. Say, for example, the information in this video could genuinely change your life. So if you don't have the attention span of a TikTok kid, then keep watching. That's just important to throw things in like that, especially as a business owner. You want to talk to serious people. So why wouldn't you write that into your content, right? Tie watching the video to success. Make a promise that if they pay attention to the video, they'll have all the information that they need to achieve whatever dream outcome they're looking for. We talked about that. You need to write from the perspective of you're giving them what they want, not what you have. You're going to tie that. They'll make the connection themselves that you have what they want, but don't say, here's the top secret. You're saying, here's how you stop being broke, or here's how you get out of pain, whatever that is. Help them throw rocks at their enemies. Single out and vividly describe the problem that's in their way from achieving their dream outcome. Articulate that out loud. Don't just assume they know it. Talk about what's stopping them, whether it's them or something else, and call attention to it. Show them the gap, twist the knife about their current situation to bring the feelings of the gap between where they are now and where they want to be, make it bigger. That's how they make the connection subconsciously that you have the answers to what they're looking for. Saying, I'm not like the other guys, position your knowledge one step above the other videos on this topic in your niche to establish yourself as the authority and one source of truth on this topic. Mock or call out other information, relate with the confusion that the viewer has about all the information that's out there in other videos. We went over that example before. All these gurus out here, I'm sure you've already heard from them, but this is not what that is. This is different. Saying things like that is important. Using social proof. Always show people screenshots. If you make any claim about revenue, you have to throw in a screenshot or else it doesn't count and it's not real. Provide irrefutable evidence and proof of any claims that you make in the hook if you want to make money. So that's the hook. There's a lot there, but it's really just about writing copy that actually matters. When you get to the body, scripting the entire video word for word is a waste of time. Unless you're scripting an ad or a VSL, no need for word scripting. It's unnatural, clunky, and impractical to do for all of your content. And if you're writing scripts for someone else, basically impossible. They know more than you do. That's the end of the story. You probably won't know more about that topic than they would. Give them the space to lead with their expertise in a natural way. Okay. So assuming you're a business owner who wants to make educational content, your goal is to get more leads for your business. You're not writing a TV series or a best man speech. You're just sharing helpful info. And assuming that you're filming a lot of screen share videos like this, videos at your desk in your office, you're putting out one video per week, about 8 to 12 minutes long. And then assuming that most presentations are 100 to 150 words per minute, would you rather write 200 words for the intro and the outro and then give yourself some bullet points about stuff you already know? Or would you rather write 1,000-word essay line for line for each video just to end up not following it, changing things, or sounding like a robot? On average, writing a script might take 30 to 40 minutes, even less if you already know what you're talking about and you're writing it for yourself, maybe another 20, 30 minutes to film it. So you don't want to make this harder than it has to be for yourself. Make sure the information is valuable and just keep opening loops. Don't close them all at once. Give people reasons to keep watching. Follow the bullet point format. Be socially calibrated. Follow the what, why, how framework. If you don't know how to take the direction of the video or how you're going to talk about the information, make your point, explain why you're making the point, why they should care, and then just talk about how to implement whatever you're teaching them. And then the social proof moat. The more social proof you put in, case studies are a huge part of this whole thing. Anytime you could refer to screenshots, case studies, claims, and back them up, your content doesn't even need to be unique. What's unique about it is the fact that you have results that other people don't. So don't try to reinvent the wheel if you have good results as a business owner. So when you get to the outro where most people make their mistakes, it's because they're letting their foot off the gas at the end. You've given tons of value. People are interested if you've done everything right. So what? Now you just tell them to like, subscribe, or book a call? No, you have to do a little bit more than that. Otherwise, they're going to tune out. Even if you just gave the best advice in the history of the world for 15 minutes straight, audience is tuning out once you enter pitch mode. So what do you say? What's the answer? Joel Urway's power offer is the answer. You could go check out his website here. But the power offer is a simple framework for making a logical sales argument that just justifies why they should keep watching and not click off the video at the end, right? You're still delivering them value, solving their problems, and speaking to them rather than just pitch, watch my stuff, click the link, and then trying to get them to follow those instructions. They're not stupid, right? People don't want to waste their time. So the way that I use the formula for outros looks something like this. You say, hey, so that would cover YouTube scripting. Now that you've gone through, you're a definitely better script writer. You get more leads from your content. But having said that, there's still so much more than just scripting that goes into building out YouTube sales funnels that print money. You know, I can't possibly cover all of that in just this one video, or else it would be 10 hours long. So that's why I made my free course on the entire YouTube sales funnel strategy. And then it covers XYZ. Here's what it does for you. Now you've got two options. You could take what I've given you here. You are much better off, but you run into all these other problems, or you could just click the link in the description to download my free course. That is how you tell people to click the link. You don't just tell them to click the link. You give them a solid reason, help them make that decision. You're on their side. It's not you versus them. It's you with them. You're saying, hey, you're going to run into all these problems. I've been here before. Yeah, this is good, but you should go to my next thing. And that's going to help you even more. That will always beat a generic outro. Never do a full recap. Do not just recap all this stuff that you talked about. They could go back. You will lose people that way. You've primed them to accept an offer from you to solve a problem that you just pointed out. You said, hey, by the way, you're about to run into that obstacle there. Don't hit that obstacle. You should come over here instead. They're going to thank you for that. right? Another concept to keep in mind is just don't make too many asks at once. We talked about that. Like and subscribe is fine, and then you could direct them to click a link. Don't do more than that. And so this is just a step-by-step of what we talked about for how that works. Reiterate the concept, assure the info that you shared is valuable, alert them of oncoming danger, validate the dangers, position your offer as an antidote, call to action. 6 steps, super simple. Not doing this is just shooting yourself in the foot. So how do you read from a script? So when you're filming the scripted portions, the intro and the outro, your power offer, use a teleprompter. That's the easiest way to do it. Not a CapCut one, a real one that actually goes over your camera. Maintain eye contact with the camera lens while you're reading the script. Even a few inches above or below the lens is really noticeable in a bad way. If you don't have a teleprompter, use what I call the 2-line method. All you do is memorize 1 to 2 lines of your script at a time. Look into the camera, say the lines, go back. The editor will cut all of that out, but they'll just get you looking at the camera talking, and it'll sound completely natural. Keep repeating for every few lines until you've made it through the entire script. That is how you do it. So that's how to script YouTube videos that don't suck. You could absolutely use this framework yourself. Just follow what I've shown you and you'll see better results immediately. But assuming that you're a business owner who values their time, you probably have better things to do than write content scripts, and you definitely don't want to try and just remember all this to try it on the fly, because you'll probably forget most of it. So if you want us to handle this entire process for you, coming up with ideas, scripts, to the editing, thumbnails, and SEO, then click the first link in the description. Book a call to speak directly with me, and we'll see if it makes sense for you to use our system so you can sign more clients with YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe for more content just like this, and I'll see you in the next one.